Do you want to lose 20 pounds without starving yourself? Today, I'm going to share a step-by-step roadmap to help you do it. Welcome to the Fit and Fulfilled Show. If you're a busy professional woman who wants to finally start prioritizing your health and happiness, this is the place to be. I'm your host, Soraya Russell, certified macronutrition coach, mindset coach, and lifestyle transformation coach. And each week I share simple strategies you can use to build sustainable habits, boost your energy, and build confidence in your body without the stress, burnout, or overwhelm. Let's dive in. This topic is really exciting for me because on my social media channels, I share a lot about how to lose weight, but it's only about 3 minutes and there's so much more I want to share, but I don't want to overwhelm the algorithm with a 10-minute, 15-minute video, so I'm able to really go in depth with you today. Not only have I lost over 20 pounds myself without starving myself or cutting out my favorite foods, but I've helped over 400 professional women do it too, ages 20 to 67, all different ages, all different health conditions, PCOS, menopause, lupus, 5 kids, 2 kids, no kids, working multiple jobs. So I guarantee you the things I'm going to share will work for you. So let's dive into how to lose 20 pounds. The first thing I want to talk about is expectation management. I am real. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So I want to tell you how long it will realistically take for you to lose 20 pounds because it's not a set number. It's not a set 2 pounds per week, 10 pounds per month. It's really based on your starting weight. And honestly, the more you have to lose, the faster you can lose it. Whereas the less you have to lose, you're probably not going to lose it as fast. So the rule I like to say is you can expect to lose 0.5 to 0.7% of your body weight on average on a weekly basis if you're being about 80% consistent. So let's do an example. Say you're currently 200 pounds, 200 times 0.5% is 1, right? That's 1 pound a week. 200 times 0.7% is 1.4. Let's just round up to 1.5. That's about 1.5 pounds per week. So this means if you're 200 pounds and you're pretty consistent, you can expect to lose between 4 and 6 pounds per month, right? That's less than the 8 pounds or 10 pounds people typically say. But for example, if you're 300 pounds, this number would be higher. Now, to continue the example, that means it would take you between about 3 to 5 months to lose that 20 pounds. Not 2 months, not 30 days, 3 to 5 months. This is when you're doing things sustainably because yes, there's methods out there where you can lose 20 pounds very quickly, but do you want to lose 20 pounds or do you want to lose 20 pounds to keep it off? If you want to keep it off, then these are the strategies that you want to deploy in your own personal life. So now that we've talked about realistic expectations, let's talk about how to actually lose the weight. The first thing is you need to be in a calorie deficit. This is not optional. This is a non-negotiable. The only way to lose weight is by being in a calorie deficit. I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, I lost weight with keto, fasting, or whatever it may be. Here's a great way to think about it, right? A calorie deficit is when you eat less calories than you burn. That is the only way for your body to lose weight. Your body is basically eating itself. So when you're eating maintenance calories, right? You're eating the amount of calories you need to maintain your weight. Your body is eating that and it's like, great, I ate the food, I have energy. When you're over consuming calories, your body eats what it needs and there's leftover food there and that's going to be stored in your body as fat. When you're eating in a calorie deficit, basically eating less than you need to maintain your weight, your body eats food and it's like, oh, I still need some more food for energy, but there's no food, so I'm going to eat the fat on your body instead. I know it sounds morbid, but that's how a calorie deficit works. When you're eating in a deficit, your body's basically like, I'm taking the fat in your body and using that for energy because I don't have as much food as I typically do to maintain my current weight. So the only reason other diets work is because you're also in a calorie deficit. So if you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. If you do keto and you're also in a calorie deficit during keto, you'll lose weight. But if you're doing keto and you're not in a deficit, you won't lose weight. If you're doing fasting, but you're not in a deficit, you won't lose weight. So the reason I recommend a calorie deficit over any diets is because it's a lot more flexible. With keto, fasting, other diets, you have specific rules you have to follow. I don't really like rules personally, right? I like to have flexibility. But with a calorie deficit, you can pretty much eat anything you want. You just got to be eating the right amount of calories within that deficit. If you want to have brownies, cookies, rice, soda, whatever it is, you can still have it as long as it's within a deficit. So it's a lot more flexible than these other diets out there. So a really simple way to calculate your calorie deficit is take your goal weight times 12. If your goal weight, for example, is 150 pounds, 150 times 12 is 1,800 calories. That would be your calorie deficit goal. Now, I'm really big on flexibility. Like I said, it's very hard to hit one number on the dot every single day. 1,800 calories it's going to be hard to hit that, right? So I recommend being within a 200 calorie range. So in this case, you want to be eating between 1700 and 1900 calories on a daily basis. Now, that's a very generic calculation. It's something everyone can do very easily, but we also have something called our free calorie deficit crash course. It's about a 10-minute training where I explain everything you need to know about a calorie deficit, how it works, a lot of more technical terms, how to calculate it for your unique body. And in this course, I help you use more unique measures like your body weight, your height, your weight to help you determine your actual calorie deficit. So while the calculation I just gave you is very simple and easy to implement, if you grab our free calorie deficit course, which is going to be below, that'll give you a more precise calorie deficit based on more unique factors to you. So I definitely recommend grabbing that. The second thing you want to implement is strength training. The reason strength training is my favorite form of movement for weight loss is because it helps you focus on losing the right things. So for example, a lot of people just focus on cardio when they're wanting to lose weight, but you don't want to lose weight. You want to lose fat and maintain or build muscle. That's what's going to lead to the body composition that you likely want. If you've ever heard of skinny fat, it's folks who maybe are small, but they have pudge on their belly, they have pudge in their arms. And so they're small, but they still have a lot of fat around their body. You don't want that. You want to be lean, right? You want to have lean muscle. I'm not talking about bulkiness, but having lean muscle. This is going to require strength training, which will help you preserve the muscle in your body while you're losing fat, right? So if you're in a calorie deficit and you are strength training, you'll mostly be losing fat and water and retain that muscle mass, right? But if you're in a calorie deficit and you're not strength training, you'll be losing fat and muscle, which could lead to the skinny fat look, which I know you don't want. Another thing about strength training is it helps you build muscle, and people with more muscle have a faster metabolism. When you have a faster metabolism, weight loss is much easier. You literally don't have to do as much work to lose weight, which I know you definitely want to do. So the way to set up your strength training routine is if you are new to strength training, I recommend 3 days per week. Don't overdo it. If you are a little bit more familiar with strength training, I recommend 4 days per week. You literally do not need to do more than that. Me personally, I only lift weights 3 times per week. That is it. I do what I need to do and I go home. Right? And so with strength training, another thing we'll talk about is you can do it at the gym or at home. You don't have to go to a gym. But with each session, you want to lift weights for about 45 minutes to 1 hour and focus on 3 to 4 exercises per strength training session. Don't try to do 10 different exercises. It's going to be overwhelming. Your muscles are going to get fatigued and you're not going to get the most from that workout. Efficiency is going to be better than doing the most, right? Quality over quantity. If you can get a quality lift, that's going to get you much further than doing quantity, for example, 10 different exercises. If you're doing 3 days a week, I recommend 1 upper body, 1 lower body, and 1 full body day. If you're doing 4 days a week, I recommend 2 upper body and 2 lower body days. You want to make sure your entire body gets some love. And something I always like to share with folks who are like, oh, I'm not good at lifting weights, I'm scared to lift weights, is the only time you don't like to do something is when you're not good at it. Right? So for me, for example, there was a couple years where I wasn't really doing legs like that. So when I started doing legs again, I was like, this sucks. I hate legs. You know why I hated it? Because my legs were not strong. Once I got my legs to be strong, now I love leg day because it's not as difficult for me. I'm not as sore as long. So once you build the habit of strength training regularly, you get stronger, you get better. You're going to start enjoying it because it feels good. You feel strong. You know what you're doing. So start, stay consistent, and you're actually going to start liking lifting weights. Another thing you want to focus on is compound movements. Compound movements means movements that work multiple muscles at once. Once again, I'm about efficiency. I don't want to do a bunch of stuff that's going to take me more time when I can do less and get to the same result. So things like squats, deadlifts, they work multiple muscles, your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings all at once, your abs. And so that way you're getting the most from your workouts without doing a bunch of isolated exercises that only work one muscle at a time. So I'm going to give you an example of a workout routine for my leg day, or let's do upper body day because that's honestly one of my favorite days of the week. So for example, I start with pull-ups. If pull-ups are not your thing, you can do the lat pull down. Pull-ups are a little bit more difficult. I had to work my way up to it, but the lat pull down is something that works similar muscle. So the lat pull down. Then I'll do tricep dips. Once again, if you're not good at tricep dips, you can do tricep dips on the floor with a bench. Then the next thing I do is shoulder raises. So that's when you have the 2 dumbbells and you're kind of raising your shoulders on the side. And then I do rows, and that's it. That's 4 exercises, and that completes my entire workout. I stretch, I foam roll, I do those 4 exercises, I go for a walk, that's it. Simple is always going to be better than more complicated. So that's an example of how you can build your strength training sessions. You also want to focus on progressive overload, which means increasing some factor over time. That could be the reps, that could be the time, that could be the sets to help you increase how much your muscles are working, right? So for me, for example, when I started getting back into leg day, every 2 weeks, I would increase my weight by 5 pounds. So if I'm doing squats this week and I'm lifting, say, 50 pounds, right? 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be lifting 55, then 60, and work my way up. At some point, you can stop, of course, but if you're especially new to the gym or new to strength training, this helps you build up your strength a little bit from where you're starting right now. And like I said, you can lift weights at home or at the gym. You do not have to go to the gym to lift weights. In fact, a lot of my clients do work out from home because it's more convenient for them. So if you're working out from home, you only really need about 3 pairs of dumbbells. I would say if you're a beginner, a 5, 10, and a 15. If you're intermediate, a 10, 15, 20, or you can do more than that if you'd like, but that's really all you need. You don't need any fancy equipment to start strength training. If you're going to the gym, I recommend free weights over equipment when possible because it's just a little bit more close to real life situations, right? You using dumbbells versus you using a machine, but use whatever you feel comfortable with. But I usually do free weights and I'll use the bar. But if you're a bit more beginner, you can do more machines to work your way up to the free weights. The third thing you want to implement is walking. Walking is my favorite form of cardio for fat loss specifically, and the reason is, there's multiple reasons actually. Number one, it's a lot more accessible, right? If you have knee pain, joint pain, walking is much easier than running or doing any sort of HIIT workouts. It's also low stress, which is going to help keep your cortisol levels in check, which is important for fat loss as well. And this is important as well. It doesn't increase your appetite as much as other forms of cardio. If you've ever done a HIIT class or ever run, you're hungry. You're very hungry after doing those activities, right? And so that could lead to you over-consuming calories, which kind of takes away from the calorie deficit piece. But walking kind of helps you maintain your appetite so you're not starving after walking 5,000, 7,000 steps, which will help you stay in a calorie deficit without feeling hungry all the time. Your goal with walking should be 7,000 steps minimum. You do not need to walk 10,000 steps a day. It sounds like a nice even round number, and if that matters to you, you want to hit a nice even number, then 10,000 is fine. But really all you need is about 7,000, which takes about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how fast you go. Now, if this feels like a lot to you, I recommend taking an app on your phone or a smartwatch and just tracking for a week. Don't aim for any goal, just track for a week to see how many steps you're getting in now. Say that comes out to be 2,000 steps per day. You just want to make a plan each week to work up those steps. So next week, aim for 3,000 steps and 4,000, and then work your way up to 7,000. I've talked about habit stacking quite a few times on the show, and this is a way to habit stack your steps so you're not overwhelming yourself or killing your legs by going from 0 to 100, or in this example, 2,000 to 7,000. Another strategic hack is walk after meals to help stabilize blood sugar and help with digestion. One of my friends, the other day we were going for a walk and she gave me a term. I have to credit her. Romay, shout out to you. She said, yeah, let's go for a digestive walk. I was like, oh my gosh, I love that because one, walking really does help with digestion. And it's just also a fun term to use to help you get excited about walking after meals. So whenever you sit down to eat lunch, breakfast, dinner, go for like a 10 to 15 minute walk after. It'll contribute to your steps and it really does help with digestion of that food. Some strategies you can use to get more steps in outside of going for an actual walk is park further away. So whenever I go to a store, I will purposely park in the back of the parking lot. I don't park in the front. Take stairs whenever possible, right? So instead of walking or taking the elevator, take the stairs. And I know if it's on the 7th floor, that can be a lot, I get it. But if it's on the 2nd floor, 3rd floor, take those stairs. You can do it. Take meetings while walking. So if it's a meeting where you're going to be on the phone, not on video, go for a walk around your neighborhood or around your house instead of sitting down while taking that meeting. Another thing you can do is invest in a walking pad. I have one in my house in my office. I think it was like $150. And this helps me get in more steps when I feel lazy, right? So if I don't feel like going outside, the weather isn't good, I will put my walking pad under my desk, get my steps in, and I'll walk slow so I can still get things done, but I'm moving, right? Or what you can do is when you watch TV, have your walking pad on. So you're walking while you're watching TV. There are so many ways to get your steps in outside of just going for a traditional walk. Another thing I recommend is on the weekends, go for long walks. So something I like to do on the weekend to kind of kickstart my steps and just help me relax during the weekend is I'll get up early. You don't have to get up early, but I get up and I'll go for a long walk in the park. It's just enjoyable to see nature, be around folks. Sometimes I'll call a friend or go with a friend to walk, but I'll walk for maybe an hour or two in the park, and this helps me front load my steps for the day while doing something in nature to kind of kickstart my weekend. The next thing you want to focus on is protein. Protein is important for a lot of reasons, which we'll get into. But first, I want to talk to you about how much protein you should be consuming because there is a lot of conflicting information on the internet. So if you weigh more than 225 pounds and you are a meat eater or pescatarian, you should be focusing on getting in 0.6 times your current weight in protein. If you weigh less than 225 pounds or less, and you're a meat eater or pescatarian, you want to aim for 0.8 times your current weight in protein. If you are a vegetarian or vegan, you want to aim for 0.4 times your current weight in protein. The reason these numbers are different is because if you weigh more than 225 pounds, right, and you use the 0.8 multiplier, you're going to be eating a lot of protein. And that's not sustainable long term for a lot of women. You don't need to be eating 200, 300 grams of protein. It's literally not necessary. There's a cap, especially for women. So this calculation makes it so that you're not consuming a crazy amount of protein that's going to be very hard for you to do on a regular basis. So do those calculations based on your current weight to figure out where you should land for protein. If you feel like the number feels high, I promise it's much easier when you implement it. A hack I like to use with my clients is breaking up the protein. So if you eat 3 meals a day, if your goal is, say, 120 grams of protein, break that up into 3. So that looks like 40 grams of protein per meal. That sounds a bit more doable than focusing on that big 120 gram number. Or if you also like to have snacks, I recommend taking 80% of your protein goal and distributing that between the 3 meals, and then the rest of the 20% distributing that between your snacks. Some sources of protein that I personally like, there's way more, but for example, chicken, turkey, eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. Edamame is a vegetable that's very high in protein. Tempeh, tofu, just to name a few. Some signs you're getting enough protein is you feel more stabilized energy-wise, you feel more satisfied after your meals, and you have less cravings. Protein helps with all of those things. It helps with muscle building and muscle recovery, stabilized blood sugar, better energy, more satisfaction. So you really, really want to prioritize protein on your weight loss journey. The next thing you want to focus on is sleep optimization. Yes, sleep contributes to your weight loss journey because when you don't get enough sleep, you're going to be more stressed. More stress leads to increased cortisol levels. It also leads to an increase in your hunger hormones. Have you ever noticed when you're not getting enough sleep, you have more cravings, you're more hungry, you want more sugary and salty foods? Sleep is a fix for that. You want to focus on getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. We had a client in our program where 2 months ago, she was barely getting 4 hours of sleep, and that was a big thing we worked on. She's now getting 7 hours consistency. She's lost 15 pounds so far, and a big part of that is because she's not eating as much in the evening because she's not as hungry. She's going to bed at a consistent time. She has more energy to do her workouts, so sleep helps with all the other things we're talking about as well. So some hacks to get better sleep are: number 1, try not to be on your screens, whether it's your phone, TV, about 1 to 2 hours before bed. You also want to sleep in a cool environment. About 65 to 68 is ideally where you want to be. If you're like, whoa, Soraya, that's too cold, that's fine. You can do higher, whatever is cool to you, which is different per person. You want to focus on that. Also, you want to have a dark environment. So if you have blackout curtains, get those, or if you don't have them, I recommend investing in blackout curtains, or just kind of close your shades and make sure that all your lights are off before you go to bed. Also make it fun by having a wind down routine for yourself. So for example, I'll take a shower, I'll listen to music, put on my diffuser, I'll journal before bed. So it's kind of fun and exciting to go to bed, and I have other activities to look forward to versus scrolling on my phone, which is going to make it harder to go to sleep because I'm thinking about what so-and-so is doing on social media or what's happening in the news. So have a routine you have before bed to make getting to sleep much easier. Another thing that'll help you get better sleep is cutting off caffeine. If you have a 9 to 5 job, I recommend cutting it off about 2 p.m. If you work night shift or you work different types of shift, about 6 hours before bed, you want to stop consuming caffeine. This will make it easier for you to get to sleep at night because you don't have the jitters. You're not running around trying to do a bunch of stuff at the house. The next thing you want to focus on is hydration, and when you time your hydration. You want to focus on getting in about half your body weight in ounces of water. So for example, if you're 150 pounds, that's 75 ounces of water. If you're 200 pounds, that is 100 ounces of water. I know that might seem like a lot, which is why you want to break it up throughout the day and work your way up to getting in more water, right? If 100 ounces feels like a lot to you right now, just like we talked about with steps, work your way up to it week after week. So have water first thing in the morning, before your meals, during your meals and after your meals, and before you go to bed. If you break it up this way, it'll be much easier to reach your hydration goals. Another reason this is important is because a lot of times thirst gets confused for hunger. You think you're hungry, you think you want a snack, but really you're just dehydrated. So drinking water throughout the day ensures when you do sit down to eat, you know you're actually hungry and not thirsty. During workouts, you're going to need extra hydration, so make sure you're drinking around the time you're working out. And you can add electrolytes as well if you want to be more hydrated and also add more flavor. I personally like a brand called Ultima. They make 0 sugar and 0 calorie electrolytes, and they taste really good. My favorite flavors are pink lemonade and strawberry margarita. Honestly, I drink them sometimes because I just like the taste, but they also make me more hydrated, so kind of killing 2 birds in 1 stone. And if you struggle with getting in water, I recommend setting alarms. So when you wake up in the morning, if you have an alarm, label it drink water. If you usually eat lunch around 12 p.m., make an alarm for 11:55, drink water, right? So set alarms to kind of create the habit, and after a while, you're going to do it naturally. The next thing you want to focus on is having a stress management plan. Stress, a lot of people don't realize, will contribute to weight gain for a lot of reasons, right? Number one is stress increases your cortisol levels. Cortisol is going to lead to more fat storage in your body. But a big reason that stress leads to weight gain is because when you're stressed, you're looking for things to mask your stress. And a lot of times that's going to be food, sweet foods, salty foods, things that make you feel comfortable. And so you're going to be eating more than your calorie deficit, which is going to lead to weight gain, or you're just not losing any weight at all. So start setting boundaries and have a stress management plan. For example, when I'm feeling myself get a little stressed, I have a routine I follow. For me, that looks like going for a walk, calling my mama, journaling, sitting down and kind of thinking to myself, okay, what's making me stressed, thinking about the reality. So for example, you might have sent an email with an error. You might have messed something up at work and you're just beating yourself up and you're like, I just want to sit down and like binge watch TV and eat food, right? That's not really addressing the issue. You want to sit down and tell yourself, okay, I made a mistake. I'm human. Is there anything I can do to correct it? Right? I'm going to move forward. It's fine. So sometimes you just have to tell yourself, okay, I'm stressed, but what's the reality of the situation, and allow yourself to move on from it. The next thing you want to do is track progress beyond the scale. I don't want to say the scale lies, but the scale does not tell the full story. I know women who on the scale seem to be a higher weight. Some people would not guess what their weight is, but their body composition is banging. They look good because body composition matters more than the number on the scale. So in our program, our clients only weigh in and do different measurements once a month because they're actually following a proven process, so they don't feel the need to constantly check to see what the numbers are, right? But I recommend if you are not working with someone, just don't weigh yourself more than every 2 weeks on your weight loss journey because that'll give you enough data to know if things are changing. I also recommend other forms of progress measurement like body fat percentage, photos, and measurements. My two favorite are body fat percentage and measurements because measurements show you each part of your body, how it's changing, right? I lost 2 inches in my stomach, 2 inches in my waist, 2 inches in my arms. That's exciting information, right? Because you can see how your body is changing. Body fat percentage is really cool too because if you're losing fat and building muscle, that's changing your body composition, which is what a lot of our clients and probably what you want. Another thing is how your clothes fit. We say we want to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, but really what you want is to fit comfortably in the clothes that you feel the most beautiful in. If that means that you only lose 5 pounds, but a lot of that was fat and you built muscle, that's really more important than you losing 20 pounds, right? So focus on progress measurement beyond the scale so that you can really see how your body is changing over time. Also focus on other things that don't even require measurement, like are your energy levels getting better? Is your mood better? Do you feel stronger? Are you getting better sleep? Those things matter a lot more than you think they do. And you really want to focus on tracking habits, not just weight loss results, because habits lead to weight loss. Weight loss does not happen without habits. So if you track the habits and you're staying consistent, the weight loss will come. Another thing you want to do to lose 20 pounds is tie new habits with habits that are already solidified that are healthy, right? So for example, when I pour my coffee, I also take my vitamins. When I sit at my desk, I drink my water. When I take my daughter to school, I go for a walk in the park that's right beside the school, right? If you already have habits that are solidified, adding new habits to go with that will help your brain believe that those two things go together, which helps them become as solidified as the habits you already have in place. And you want to take these habits and stack them. So for example, week 1, if you drop your daughter off at school, say every time I drop my daughter off at school, I go for a walk. Do that for a week or 2 until it becomes habitual, then add in something else. For example, when I sit down at my desk, I drink my water. And keep adding new habits and stack them on and tie them with the already existing habits. This is a quick and easy and sure way to create new habits that stick, just like the ones you already had before. So here's some common mistakes to avoid when you're trying to lose 20 pounds. The first one is starting too aggressively. Do not start eating 1,000 calories when typically you eat 2,000 calories. Do not go and start working out 7 days per week when you've never stepped foot in a gym in your entire life, right? That's going to lead to you failing very fast, feeling like a failure, feeling defeated, and making it much harder for you to start the next time you try to start your weight loss journey. Start sustainable because that way you end sustainable and you continue going sustainably. The second mistake I see people doing is avoiding strength training or not implementing strength training. They're just focusing on running, HIIT, whatever it is. Strength training is the easiest way to get the body that you want. Sometimes we think strength training means you're going to get bulky, get big, but no, when you see the women with like the lean shoulders and the like nice back and all these different parts of their body, even like the butt, the nice like plump butt, that comes from lifting weights. Your butt is a muscle. If you want it to be plump and all these different things, you got to work the muscle. Another mistake you want to avoid is the all or nothing mindset. A lot of clients we work with are perfectionists, and we have to kind of change that mindset when it comes to weight loss for them to stay consistent. If you're only focusing on it being perfect, you're never going to reach your weight loss goals because it's not going to be perfect. 80% consistency is going to get you somewhere. Just starting and stopping is going to get you nowhere. The next mistake you want to avoid is scale obsession. You could have a couple weeks where the scale doesn't move, and if the only thing you're focusing on is the scale, that could mean you quit. But if you also took your measurements or your body fat percentage, you would see you're losing fat and building muscle. If you focus on the way your clothes fit, you'd see they're fitting a little bit looser, and you would keep going. So don't just obsess over the scale, focus on multiple forms of progress measurement. Another mistake that a lot of people avoid is skipping recovery. Your body needs time to recover to have the best workouts and get the most from your strength training sessions. So, for example, if you're trying to work out 7 days a week, stop. Stop doing it. 3 to 4, because you have a day in between to recover, and that's going to allow your next strength training session to be good, be optimal, and help you build the muscle you need to also lose the fat. Another common mistake is not planning for changes in schedule. For example, travel, holidays, things of that nature, menstrual cycles, right? If you only plan to do things when everything's perfect, when you're at home, when you're working your normal job, you're going to completely fall off when things are different, when travel happens, when vacations happen, when it's holiday time. You have to have a plan for when those different situations arise so that you still feel like you're being consistent. Consistency doesn't look the same in every season. Consistency when you're working normal at your job, when you're at home, could look like exercising at the gym or at home 3 days a week, walking 7,000 steps a day. Consistency when you're on vacation might look like no strength training exercises and just walking every day. Consistency during the holidays could look like walking every day when you're out of town with friends or family, going on a hike one day, or going to do something fun, an activity one day. You have to plan for the things that are not your typical schedule, because those things are going to happen every year on a regular basis, not as regularly as a day-to-day activity, but you have to plan for them. Remember that losing 20 pounds and keeping it off is achievable with the right system and the right support. So thank you for tuning into today's episode. I hope you walked away with practical strategies that you can start implementing right away to lose that 20 pounds and start feeling more confident, energized, and fulfilled in your personal and professional life. And if you found this helpful in any way, please subscribe and let me know what you liked most about today's episode. It helps other women discover these strategies so they can also lose 20 pounds, keep it off, and sustain their lifestyle changes. And if you want the personalized guidance, coaching, and support that you need to lose 20 pounds and most importantly, keep it off for the rest of your life, then I definitely recommend you apply for the Fit and Fulfilled Academy. The Academy is our signature coaching program where we help you with everything from nutrition, fitness, and mindset, and give you all the tools, strategies, and accountability that you need to lose the 20 pounds and keep it off forever. You can get all the details down below. And also in this episode, we talked about our calorie deficit crash course. So we have a free crash course that teaches you exactly how to calculate your unique calorie deficit needs for weight loss. You can grab that down below as well. So thank you again so much for tuning in. Remember, you deserve to feel as successful in your health as you do in your career. Take care and talk to you next time.